So, hey now, good morning. Wednesday, advanced class, where I sweat bullets because, this is advanced and uh, I'm nervous and shy, but that's something you don't need to worry about because we're not talking about me. We're talking about you guys and our education with music. Handel was a genius. I mean, so many, and when I played that For Unto Us a Child is Born, it really sounded like a pop song that could be written in the church today. Baroque music is so fresh, isn't it? It's really exciting theatrical music. And this is before Mozart. This is before Mozart and Beethoven and all of these other people, because we looked at the timeline yesterday. Hundreds of years ago, I still can't get over how great Baroque is. And then also Baroque and pop music, like I said, that's what we're going to be talking about today. Are these just fancy terms? What do these things mean? How are Handel and Bach going to be similar to groups in the 1960s? I mean, come on. So Handel does more homophony that we looked at yesterday, kind of one primary part. But then there's counterpoint too, but supported by a bass line. So we looked at that, where Bach is a little bit more polyphony. Yeah, I'm trying to think, probably more pop music is kind of more like Handel, but Bach did chord progressions and all these things. So I was also thinking last night, I wonder how did Baroque music come, why was it in the 60s that musicians said, hey, let's go back hundreds of years, who was that? We don't know. Most likely all the answers always come from the Beatles, that the Beatles were the first ones to do that. And when we think of Baroque instruments, harpsichord is a huge one, right? And descending bass lines, just stepward-wise, those are elements of Baroque music. So instrumentation, of course. But there were harpsichords in the 40s, 50s, even before in big band popular music. Not really big band, but starting in the 50s, there was some of that. So how come it's not Baroque music in the 50s? Yeah, I guess the only answer is the Beatles, I think, because In My Life changed everything when they heard that in 1965, when the world heard John Lennon's, and John Lennon told George Martin, I want a Baroque solo, make it Baroque or something like that. It just shows, Lennon and McCartney, when they could hear different people's music, they were like, okay, let's put that in a Beatles song. That's genius. So, and of course, so we looked at that Baroque piano solo, that beautiful piano solo. Just as a recap, this is what we're talking about. Now that's a piano. It sounds like a clavichord or a harpsichord because it's the pitch is an octave higher, because he recorded it at half the speed, because it was kind of too fast for George Martin to play. So he recorded it at half the speed. So when you double the speed, it sounds of course twice as fast, but also an octave higher, because it's going to change the pitch. But it's a solo very much in the style of Bach, or Handel. Probably too, for sure. So it seems like 65 was when pop musicians are saying, hey, this is a cool instrument. This is also cool, cool chord progression wise. What's going on? Music critics said that Walk Away Renee was maybe the first Baroque pop song. I love this song by the Left Bank. So that's 1966. So if our thesis is that it started with the Beatles, 65, maybe it did start with the Beatles. Maybe bands like the Left Bank said, okay, let's get some harpsichords, let's get some string orchestration that's very Baroque-ish, meaning not lush, big Wagner strings, nothing like that. Not really even Mozart, but more kind of in the style of Vivaldi that we've talked about, Handel. And let's look at the bass lines and keep the bass lines simple where you have counterpoint going on, as opposed to when we looked at our counterpoint class, many times the bass could be contrapuntal, where, you know, I mean, even we looked at the that Michael Jackson song where the bass line is almost its own melody. So we've talked about that. That is not the case in this. They're going to use ground bass, which is a fancy word, but we're going to keep it easy. But then, of course, you get Eleanor Rigby in 1966, all strings, right? I mean, we could go on with the Beatles. We get For No One, which is the clavichord, which is kind of a keyboard from the Middle Ages. What are these guys dicking around with, you know, musical instruments? Well, different sounds, right? We always talk about how do we get different sounds, different instruments. Also, inversions, we've talked about respelling of chords. That gives you a different sound. Something I need to do, you know, on my own time, but you know, cut me a break a little bit here. So this all leads up to the song we're going to be looking at. It's a very famous song. This sold over like 10 million records. This is the band Procol Harum, English rock group. They formed in 1967, which is a great time to form a band because that's the summer of love. Sgt. Pepper's comes out here. Everyone's got a band. Everyone's got one big hit song that's going to change the world. This kind of song did change the world. So we're going to listen to this. This is Baroque and classical influence for sure. A Wider Shade of Pale.
Feeling kind of seasick. The crowd called out for more.
I've heard many interviews with musicians. People love covering this song. There's something beautiful about this song, and we're going to look at the beauty and the simplicity of this song. I happen to really love this, but this sounds so much like Bach. And when I say Bach, I mean Baroque, and because of course this is, you know, advanced Handel. Let's deconstruct this here, without even looking at the music. I just want you to hear hear how simple this is, and how if somebody said this is, hey, I got a great song, here's the bass line. Listen to the bass line. Just 8 sustained notes, and you'd be like, well, that's just 8, that's a scale. That's not going to sell anything. Okay, let's add the rhythm to that, what I just played. Okay, not much better. This sounds like an elementary school piece that you would write, because now you're just going da 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 da. That's not going to sell 10 million hit songs. So, but that's what they're going to use in the left hand, the bass left hand. So what do you do over here? What's the right hand about? Chords. So you're going to be, but how do you do chords? Because you're going to keep doing that descending bass line. Let's take a look at that descending bass line. This is Wider Shade of Pale, just the first opening few bars. We're in C major here, the tonic, right? The 1 chord, a major 1 chord. It's in C. C. Okay, good. Keys in C. We start in C. Perfect. B. This is the downward scale. B, A, G. This is all part of the scale, F, E, D, C. And that's what I played earlier, those sustained notes. Doesn't sound like anything. So you need to have something on the right hand, chord-wise, to give it chords. But you can't just do chords, block chords going down, because that's not going to sound good either. So we're going to use inversions here. We're going to hear how the bass stays the same with this downward motion, but the chords are changing too. And we're going to hear how Bach did this hundreds of years earlier. But it's not a complete ripoff. It really, when we listen to Bach, and I guess we could do it right now, it's the air on the G string from the orchestral suite number 3. And Gary Brooker, who wrote the song, just died a few weeks ago, totally acknowledged that he was listening to Bach and he listened to this piece. But it's not a steal. It's the first few bars are definitely, and it's definitely got a Baroque feel, but it's not like he just stole the sheet music and they riffed over it. Although the first few bars sounds very much like it. I just want to show you that it's 8 notes going stepwise down, but yet it sounds super cool. So how do we do that? We start with a C chord, but already we're going to be doing inversions. So we looked at first inversion. That's when the bass is in, the third is in the bass. Second inversion, don't worry, I'm not going to get to, is when the fifth is in the bass. With sheet music, you write that with, like in this case, you're going to have an E minor and then a slash B. B is the fifth of an E minor chord. So with pop music, when you do a slash and another, B, C, D, that means that the one below the slash is the bass line, okay? So if we look at the chords to Watershed, we can look at C and then B, right? A, G, we can see these things, F, E, D, C, okay? But look at the chords, C major, E minor, but not E minor in root position, E minor with the fifth in the bass. A minor in root position, C chord, but with G the fifth in the bass, F chord in root position, A minor with the fifth in the bass, the E, D minor in root position, F chord with the fifth in the bass, that's with the C right there. And that's all, we're only going to take it there. The rest of the song kind of does this downward thing, but I really just wanted to focus on these first few measures of how you get this downward thing. This sounds a lot like Baroque music. This is Baroque music in the sense, only it's got an organ, even though they used organs all the time actually, even with Bach, but it's got a rock feel to it. The drums provide that rock feel. So we listen to Bach, we listen to Baroque music with Handel, and we listened to one of the most famous pop songs ever written, A Whiter Shade of Pale. Beautiful song, and just wanted to show you the influence of Baroque pop music, and we, as we dive deeper into deconstructing just on the music, what we're hearing. So you hear the similarities a lot. So hope that was fun. Hope it wasn't too much for the kids. tomorrow we'll be going back to LA, and let me know if you have any questions. Obviously, always here. Really want to get you guys involved. I don't want this to sound like I'm just speaking, because it's not interesting to me unless it's interesting to you guys. So, yeah, that's where the love comes from. Okay, see you tomorrow. Bye.
Turn the wide